From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
Time is ticking down on the final deals of 2025 at Crown Motors. Every car on the lot is discounted for this sale. Ford buyers will receive an additional $1,000 in mega cash from Ford on top of all other discounts. And selected Fords get 0% APR for 60 months, 0 down payment, and 0 payments for 90 days. Time is running out. So come to Crown Motors on Cypress Avenue or visit us online at crownmotorsreading.com.
Happy holidays from Weather NorCal and our sponsors. Have a wonderful holiday season.
Well, happy Friday to you all. And of course, we're getting to the holiday season. We're getting into the giving spirit. If you want to give to those in need, you can do that for the kiddos that need bikes. This is the 21st annual bike drive. You can go to many different locations where you can drop off those new bikes and you can assemble them. You can have them assemble them for you, but you have until December 24th, until Christmas Eve, to get those bikes dropped off. All right, let's take a look at the radar, and as expected, that rain came in overnight in the early morning hours, hitting the coast first. Now, it has prompted the National Weather Service to issue number 1 yesterday, the flood watch. But you'll also notice there is that area in bright green that just popped up around the Eureka area northward, making its way to northern Humboldt County. This is an immediate area where there is a threat for some flooding as well. The ground is very saturated. This is not a surprise. So a lot of the low-lying areas, creeks and streams, are going to start kind of swelling up here. But once this moves out, which it will eventually later this morning, we'll be looking at drier conditions and things will start to really improve when it comes to that flooding. Wet roads this morning for your morning commute, pretty much anywhere you go. We're just going to take a look at some of the cameras from Caltrans across the region. Can't really see too much in Red Bluff, still a little dark out there this morning. But there you can see Main Street, Chico. Maybe those roads will be getting wet as we go into the morning hours. So let's take a look at those weather headlines. The wetter pattern kicks back in today, and it's going to kick into high gear. Off and on rain here for quite some time now. Gusty winds at times, we're seeing them this morning. They'll probably subside later today. Snow levels are high. They have been high and will continue to be high through the weekend, but I do expect them to lower. Just how much lower is still a little tricky, but we're beginning to kind of fine-tune that a little bit here. Most likely not much lower than 4,000 or 4,500 feet at this point as we go into the middle and latter part of next week, but again, that needs to be ironed out. And there will be potential weather delays during the holiday travel due to the rain and due to those lower snow levels as well. So there's a lot to track here. We're going to get into that in the deeper dive here in just a bit, but for those of you that are in a hurry, well, here's your Krueger's Quickcast for your Friday, December 19th. So this morning, it's going to be wet, I think, across the board at about 8 o'clock. So make sure your windshield wipers are working properly. Make sure you got something to keep you dry as you're walking out to your car, because it will be a little wet out there this morning. There are wind advisories for today and even into tomorrow. You see the gusty winds that we have this morning. It's been gusty and will continue to be gusty here through the morning hours and even later this afternoon. But you see the wind, the trend is those winds are dying down because the main storm system is shifting to our south throughout the day today, and as a result, the winds will die down. The atmospheric river we've been telling you about has really been impacting the Pacific Northwest. It's finally, as expected, shifted to the south. This morning, it's pointed right at Northern California, but then it will be to our south later this afternoon and especially this evening. There you can see that narrow band of rain, heaviest at 6 o'clock this morning, just to the northwest of the valley. Then through the morning hours, you can see that starts to shift southward, and it's moving pretty quickly. By midday, the main batch of moisture is to the south. And any of that rain is going to continue to kick to the south here as we go into this evening and tonight. So we will be looking at a bit of a break from the wet weather here for tonight and even Saturday morning. So for today, temperatures low to mid 50s in the valley, 40s and 50s for the higher elevations, upper 50s for the coast. And for tonight, as mentioned, I don't expect much in the way of rain, but there will eventually be some showers again for your Saturday. Now, there you can see the timing of the rain over the weekend and the intensity depends on where you are. but it's not going to be a complete washout. That means it's not going to be raining constantly and steady. It's not going to be raining steady through the weekend, but there will be off and on showers. And check this out. I'm seeing signs that if we see a break at all completely, it will be on Monday. But we could still see a chance for a few showers here and there. And then after that, more wet weather kicks back in here for Tuesday, Wednesday, and even for your Thursday. And you'll notice the snow levels, as I mentioned, they are starting to drop closer to, say, around Wednesday or Thursday. I've got them down to about 4,500 feet. So that could impact some of those higher mountain passes here in the North State, and especially down to the Sierra as you get closer to the Tahoe region. All right, that is a look at your Krueger's Quickcast. Let's take a look at what I'm tracking first and foremost through next week. We've got a series of storms that will be moving through Northern California through next week with possible flooding, mudslides, rock slides, debris flows, the works. Gusty winds at times. We've already seen that this morning. I think we'll see more through parts of the weekend and next week. Gusts in the 30 to 50 mile an hour range, possible wind damage, and mountain snow eventually by late next week could lead to some travel delays as well. So we're going to get into all of that in our deeper dive forecast. And that deeper dive forecast is sponsored by Shasta Hearing Aids.
Frank, come help with the dishes.
What?
The dishes!
I heard it the first time. I just got back from Shasta Hearing Aids, but she doesn't know it yet. What?
Forget it.
All right, well, there it is, that radar, and there's that rain. And as expected, coming in from the northwest, working its way down the south and east. And this progression that you see here, this will continue to do this throughout the morning and afternoon. Now, you'll notice here these areas in green, this is where we have a flood watch. This is where we, and then a flood advisory. So essentially, the thing is, the ground is very saturated. The rain we're seeing on top of that could create some problems, especially some of the low-lying areas. Some of the local creeks and streams may see some overflowing as well. But as that moves down to the south and east, we'll eventually see those all get lifted. So again, until 10 o'clock this morning, potential impacts will be mudslides, rock slides, debris flows, flooding of creeks, rivers, and low-lying areas is a possibility. This is not going to be a major flooding event, folks, but there will be some of that minor flooding in some of those low-lying areas. Here's your satellite image, and you can clearly see that Pineapple Express right here, right into which was over the Pacific Northwest the last few days, but you see how it shifted southward? It's pointed right at Northern California right now, at us. But as we go midday and into the afternoon, you see how it's pointed to the south. But what's happening is, you see, we talk about these narrow bands of moisture, and typically on the north and south side of it, you see the drier conditions, and then you see much wetter conditions kind of in the center of that column. On the outer fringes of that is about where we're going to be. But what you'll notice here is these little humps right here. These are little push moisture impulses that will be pushing through at times throughout the weekend. You've got one right here. It looks like we've got another one right here. So even though this is all pushing to the south, we're seeing these impulses push through, which will bring us more off and on rain and periods of moderate to heavy rain for some throughout the weekend. So there you can see by Sunday, you see how it's pointed more to our south, Sacramento, Bay Area, right? But there's that narrow band of column right here. You see how we're on the northern fringe of that. And that's why I still expect to see the potential for rain even on Sunday. Now, if we see a break at all, I think it will be on Monday. We're not seeing as many of those impulses. Most of it will be to our south. There still may be a chance for a few showers for the southern portions of the viewing area, Chico, Plumas County, for example, on Monday. But it's not until Tuesday that we see some cold air dive down to the south. What that does is it takes this, and it just goes to the south, it does this. And I talked about that yesterday. It'll pivot back up and basically kind of a south to north flow working into Northern California, giving us more rain for your Tuesday, Wednesday, and even into your Thursday. We've got a low pressure here. Now that main atmospheric river that's been impacting us over the weekend and early next week, that's way down to the south. And now we've got this area of low pressure right here, tapping into some moisture, giving us more wet weather here for your Wednesday and for your Christmas Day as well. Looks like Christmas Day at this point is still looking fairly wet. So looking at Futurecast, we're going to kind of walk you through the timing of all this. 8 o'clock in the morning, pretty much. I mean, if we look at the entire area of Northern California, our region, everyone for the most part is fairly wet. There you can see some of that steady rainfall we will see for a few hours, but then by midday, you see how it's kind of starting, number one, break apart, but number two, it's shifting to the south. Drier conditions for parts of the north coast. I'd expect that by midday, minus some drizzle, you'll be looking at mainly dry conditions, much drier conditions here for the coast. And then you can see by 5 p.m., most of it's out of here. Maybe some drizzle here and there, maybe a few sprinkles, and that's it. Now, remember I was talking about how it's pointed to our south, but we have these little impulses. So there's an impulse right here Saturday morning. Saturday morning, you can see us, we're fairly dry, right? But there's that impulse coming in. Now, it's going to kind of push up to the north. Midday on Saturday, it's Red Bluff southward. Now, again, it's that fine cutoff line, and that's where things get tricky. You shift this a little bit more to the north, and now everybody else is getting, Redding is getting that rain. Shift it more to the south, now Red Bluff's not seeing the rain. So that's where things get tricky with these atmospheric rivers, because you have to, just a minor little shift can determine whether or not you see that rain. But I do expect you see that little bit of more moisture kind of being tapped into, giving us some more scattered showers for the second half of the day on Saturday for pretty much everyone else. But again, you can clearly see that main band of moisture right here is where the heavy rainfall is. And by the way, take note how warm this is. We're not seeing a lot of snow in the Sierra, so very high snow levels initially here through the weekend. There you can see on Sunday, you see how it's mainly pointed to the south of us. Very high snow levels, a little bit lower as you head down to the south. And there you can see this is another little impulse coming in from the south here. We see more wet weather coming into your Sunday. So this is that off and on rain that we'll see throughout the weekend. Now look at Monday. This really pushes to the south. We're dry Monday morning. And then we go into Monday afternoon. It's starting to pivot this way. So there's Monday at 5 p.m. We're starting to see some of the showers extreme south, say Plumas County, Chico, right? And then as we go into Tuesday, what's going to happen is this is going to kind of start to shift more this way. So 5 a.m. Tuesday, what's going to happen is you kind of see it's doing this, and then it will kind of do this. So then everyone else will kind of get in on some of that rain. I would say that we'll probably see a little less rainfall for places like the North Coast, but still some rain coming in on Tuesday for everyone. So forecast rainfall totals through that time frame, Monday even into Tuesday morning. Again, these are just estimates. You can see kind of a bullseye here because this is where at least through the next several days you'll get a bit more rainfall down to the south and east here, but otherwise not as much. So this is not going to be a major rainfall event. However, we have that potential for flood risk here, especially this morning for the North Coast. And then tomorrow, it's mainly down to the south, just that slight potential. And then on Sunday, with that added rainfall, we could be looking at that potential for more flooding. Now, the main concern will be mudslides, rock slides, debris flows, the works, right? Some of the low-lying areas that typically see flooding have that potential as well. What I've been monitoring and showing you here is the rivers and creeks and streams here. So there's the Mad River near Arcata. You can see the action stage is 15 feet, so we're still nowhere near that, but we have been seeing these inch up a little bit higher. In fact, taking a look at the Sacramento River at Tehama Bridge, 206.5 feet is the action stage. We did at one point see the forecast show that it did slightly exceed that. But what we are seeing here, especially for the Sacramento River at Tehama Bridge, is it's getting a little bit closer to that action stage. That's 10 p.m. on Sunday, and then we see that little relief on Monday with that slight chance for that drier weather on Monday, but then we may see another spike going into Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. And Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, we're going to have to watch this, because the ground at this point is getting very saturated, and it's not going to take much to really get those levels to kind of go back up. But there you can see here, as we go into Christmas Day, look at the snow levels. They're showing much lower. And we're going to kind of get into, see right here, this area of low pressure is very important because this has got some cold air associated with it, and the deeper it digs, the farther south it goes, and the closer it gets to us, the colder the air will be and the lower the snow levels will be. So we're really going to have to monitor what this area of low pressure does. That will depend on what kind of road conditions we have as we go into Wednesday, and in particular Thursday, Friday, even into Saturday. It looks like a little bit of a break on Saturday, and then maybe more rain coming in by the week after that as well. But overall, I think we're going to start to see less of these bigger events after Christmas and after the day after Christmas, so after Friday, so the Friday after Christmas. Once we get past that, we're going to see kind of less significant events kind of moving on through. That's what the trend is showing at this point. Now you can see here The main bullseye is, again, out towards the south and east, but this is where we're seeing most of the rainfall, north and east. But even the valley is seeing a decent amount of rainfall. In fact, because we're getting more of that southerly flow, we're getting that direct southerly flow of that atmospheric river over us by the time we go into Tuesday, Wednesday, and even Thursday. What that does is it gives us more of that direct tap into that moisture, and we see more rain as a result, as opposed to when you have more of a southwest and westerly flow. What that does is these mountains kind of block some of that rain. We tend to get shadowed by some of that rain in the valley, so we typically tend to see less as a result. But because we're seeing more of a southerly flow, that will allow us to get more of that direct tap and more rain as a result. Snow levels are going to be high throughout the weekend, so you don't have to worry about travel. Even Cedar Pass won't have any problems through Sunday. That includes also for many of the higher mountain passes on east of I-5 here. Monday at 5 p.m., maybe Cedar Pass getting in on just a little bit of snow, but probably won't produce any problems here. And then going into Tuesday morning, all right, now we're starting to see that potential. You see how as we get through next week, we're starting to see the snow levels begin to drop slightly. So we may run into a few minor issues off in some of the eastern mountains here as we go into Tuesday and even into Wednesday. And then, of course, Christmas Day, the day after Christmas, we're really going to have to watch because it may be low enough that it could create some pretty big problems. The winds have certainly been pretty gusty out there. They will subside, though, as the storm system shifts to the south throughout the day today. Saturday, overall, the winds shouldn't be that bad, but maybe on Sunday, picking back up, especially here to the south and east, probably not as bad to the north and west for the coast, for example. And then it looks like on Monday, a little bit of a break from the winds, but they may pick back up again for your Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. So off and on winds here in the story as well. Look at this. We're actually seeing positive numbers. Even Lake Oroville has seen an increase in the lake levels. So we may start to see this begin to rise as well. But overall, the lakes are still looking very healthy, despite the fact that, the first 2 weeks of December have been very dry. But now we're starting to kind of make up for that, aren't we? Take a look at those wave heights, and you can see as we go into your Saturday, yeah, they are starting to subside a little bit here. We do have that gale warning out there this morning for the coast here. That should be allowed to expire, especially as the storm system shifts to our south and east. The winds subside, the waters will kind of get a little less disruptive as well, and shouldn't be as much of an issue. So here's your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. You can see, of course, for Trinity County, temperatures in the low to mid 50s. Now, what you're going to notice here across the board is Monday, I don't have any rain in there for you. It depends on where you are, but southern portions around Chico, say even Plumas County, may see a chance for some showers on Monday. But I think everyone else, for the most part, will be dry, minus maybe some drizzle or a passing sprinkle here and there. But overall, when you compare to the rain that we're going to see here over the next 7 days, Monday is that day that many of us could see a bit of a break. And then, of course, you can see I'm including snow levels eventually by Christmas Day, because they may be lower enough where we could be looking at some higher impact travel delays as a result of that snow. Temperatures are going to be in the mid to upper 40s for Modoc County here for today and for the eastern mountains. Looking at temperatures upper 40s and low 50s. More showers after Monday as we go into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Your valley neighborhood forecast to the south, of course, you can see those temperatures in the mid to upper 50s with that bit of a break on Monday, possibly. First day of winter will be wet, and of course, as we go into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, more wet weather. All right, taking up to the north, 52 degrees for Redding, 52 degrees for the city of Shasta Lake, and 55 degrees for Red Bluff. Let's take a look at that 7-day forecast for Redding. And you can see those temperatures are going to be the low to mid 50s, a little bit cooler though. And again, that's a sign of those snow levels also starting to try to drop here as we go into Wednesday, Thursday. But bottom line, yeah, it's going to be wet, off and on rain for the next 7 to even possibly 8, 9 days. That's your morning update. I'll be back again at noon for your latest forecast. Have a great morning.
When you see flashing lights, someone's life depends on us.
And while we're out helping crash victims, we need your help to keep us safe. Move over, slow down. It's the law. It protects everyone.
Our crews are out here every day, keeping the roads safe for you and your family.
We're often the last ones on scene, and we want to make it home safe too.
Protect those who protect you. Slow down and move over.